Chris Kelsey here with
Matt Howell.
On this episode of The First Run, Matt and I are going to discuss Greta, the psychological thriller starring Isabelle, Huppert, and Chloë Grace Moretz, as a kind of a, some people that meet and become friends, and of course everything that goes horribly wrong when that happens. Just ask Matt and I. And then there's also the other thriller that came out last year, Matt, that has a 100% Rotten Tomatoes score and got no love at the Oscars, and that is Leave No Trace. So we're going to do some catch-up maybe over the next few weeks of some great stuff that we didn't get to see in 2018. And then finally, it's going to be the return of our Vegas Oddsmaker segment, What Are the Odds? And, well, I'm not going to spoil it. It's going to be an interesting one, Matt. I got some stuff to get worked up over, too, which is always a good time. So let's start everything up with a clip from Greta.
Please.
Jesus, what do you want from me?
I want to talk.
Then talk to your daughter.
I can't. She does not understand.
What? What doesn't she understand?
I'm lonely.
Greta, everybody's lonely. That does not mean that you get to follow people around and terrorize them.
Everybody needs a friend. You have your Erica.
No, you leave Erica out of this.
You said you always stick around like chewing gum.
Are you insane?
Please. Let's try and start again. I love you.
You don't even know me.
So, Matt, as always, every episode is particularly mastered for a particular listening experience. And this one, of course, is when you're stalking that special someone and you're just standing outside the restaurant that they work at and you're just staring at the window for hours at a time. Well, you're going to need something to listen to. So this particular episode is mastered just for that occasion. Matt, why don't you tell the fine folks at home, now that I've joked around about stalking, what is Greta all about?
Or as Chris likes to call, first date. Greta is about Frances, a young woman who moves from Boston to New York, and she finds a handbag on the subway. And being the good Samaritan she is, instead of saying something because she saw something, she says, hey, it's a good idea to go bring this back to the person who owns it. And she meets a lonely older woman named Greta, who turns out to be a bit of an obsessive, and things spiral out of control from there.
I think that is an apt description. So one thing I could say walking out of this thing, Matt, is clearly I am not going to return any personal items to anybody at this point. If there's nobody there, police or service or whoever, just toss it in the trash. Or nay, should you even pick it up?
You should say something.
I should say okay. So what were your thoughts about Greta, Matt? I feel like this could have been a fun kind of one of those obsession thrillers, but undermined, I think, generally by a weak script and a couple of almost every one of the characters is underdeveloped. And I think that it just cuts this thing off at the knees. Am I wrong? Are the thrills there? I mean, this is Neil Jordan, right? He did Interview with the Vampire, The Crying Game, the interesting, if not offbeat, Byzantium, the vampire flick from a few years ago.
Sure.
So am I off on this?
No, not really. It's got some interesting ideas in it. I mean, it's kind of in that kind of very narrow genre of Fatal Attraction or Single White Female, those kinds of things. And I think Huppert as Greta is probably the sole bright spot on this, but everybody else, especially Chloë Grace Moretz, is just kind of out of their depth in this. And I don't think Jordan ever really knows how to wrangle it back into something that's how do I put it, more compelling. I think it has some neat ideas, but it kind of goes straight to the kind of breathless, thriller type stuff pretty quickly, as opposed to kind of dwelling on the kind of slow burn I think some of these things live and die off of.
I would agree. I think for me, the big complaint I had, as I said, is that the characters aren't fleshed out enough for me. They're kind of just they're given motions to go through and reactions to share, but the whole thing never really felt real or engaging for me. Unfortunately, you never really establish any type of emotional connection with these characters. And outside of Isabelle, like you said, it's everyone else not quite sleepwalking through it, but it's just not terribly good, except for how do you pronounce it? Maika Monroe, who plays her roommate Erica Penn.
Right.
It's one of those where it's a character who makes decisions that make absolutely no sense. And like if she asked like one question or did something, the whole thing would unravel. Right. And I think there's a scene of that near the end of the film where I guess they try and explain all that and come up with some reasoning behind it, but it's just, I don't know. And there's particularly to the ending that's, I guess, supposed to be all twisty, right? But it's just it's more groan-inducing. And Neil Jordan brings in Stephen Ray, which he is apt to do. And I think Stephen Ray plays a detective who's trying to kind of get to the heart of what's happening here. And what could have been kind of a great cat and mouse moment, really an interesting, fascinating scene, Matt, is basically just there to create a body count. And that's all it is. That or just to give Ray some work. I don't know what it is, but he is entirely wasted in this. So it's just not as fun as it could have been. It's unfortunately just a bit of a slog.
And let's be honest. I mean, we can tell that going into watching the trailers. I don't think either one of us were particularly excited to go see this film. And unfortunately, our expectations were met. Yeah,
I mean, I'm going in looking for kind of a modern day Grimm's fairy tale, a Hansel and Gretel type scenario. And we just don't get it. It's really almost instantly forgettable, unfortunately. I don't know. I was kind of looking a little more forward to this. I had heard initially a while back that some good things about this. So I wasn't as smart about it as you were, as to have my expectations tempered.
So you were looking forward to something. Chris, we've been doing this long enough where you would think you would know better by now.
You'd think, but no.
Nope.
Not at all. So I'm going to give Greta a C+. I think that's the best we can do based on Huppert's performance and just kind of almost the overall cheesiness of it all. I don't know. It's not. I don't know if it's quite good enough. It's so bad that it's good.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's so mediocre. It's bad. Is really
fair enough.
With that. I'm going to give it a gentleman's C. Okay. It really kind of landed really right in the middle of the pack for me.
Well, there you go.
There you go, guys.
If you've had a chance to see Greta, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. Coming up on Blu-ray and DVD this upcoming Tuesday, Matt. That is March 12th. Well, I think, safe to say, the best superhero film of 2018.
Whoa, look at that. The new coffee shop. You see that, Miles?
Totally, yeah.
You see that one? What's that one called?
Foam Party.
Foam Party? Mm-hmm. Come on. And everyone is just lining up. You see that, Miles?
See it.
Is that a coffee shop or a disco?
Dad, you're old.
There are multiple reports of another mysterious seismic event last night. Sources close to Spider-Man say he's looking into the problem.
Spider-Man. I mean, this guy swings in once a day, zip, zap, zop in his little mask and answers to no one, right?
Yeah, Dad. Yeah.
And meanwhile, my guys are out there,
yeah,
lives on the line, no mask. We show up.
Oh, no. Dad, speed up. I know these kids.
With great ability comes great accountability.
That's not even how the saying goes,
Now,
Dad.
I do like a cereal, though. I'm giving that.
Oh, my gosh. Don't cops run red lights?
Well, yes, some do. But not your dad.
I like how he says, I do like the cereal, though. So, that is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, the animated film that came out late in 2018. And I think The First Run stands firmly behind it being the best superhero film of that year.
Without a doubt.
If you pick it up from Best Buy, you get it with a steel book. Target's got a digibook. Walmart has a Miles Morales action figure. And Amazon has a lenticular cover. So there's a bunch of featurettes on this thing, going into the villains, talking about the story, bringing everything together. It's a tribute to Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, which, I think is always good. And for my big thing, the big get for me, I think, is an all-new original Spider-Ham Caught in the Ham animated short in this thing. And I'm a big Peter Porker fan from back in the day.
For sure.
So I'll be interested in checking that out. So I think this is definitely going to be a purchase. Did your young daughter see this? Did you watch this with her?
Yeah, we did. She really liked it. I really liked it too. So I'm pretty excited to go pick this up.
There you go. The underwhelming Mary Poppins Returns is coming out as well. You get it from Best Buy. There's a steel book. Target is a digibook as well. There's a deleted song that is included, and also some other deleted scenes. I think one of them is more an extended scene. And exclusive to the digital copy is the audio commentary with the director and producer, which I think is always kind of a cheat. That's all. Like they did it, I think, with the first Star Trek film. The IMAX version was only available initially on the digital iTunes file. I think when they re-released it in the compendium set, they included it. But it always bothers me. Though I don't believe it does come with a digital copy, so you will be able to enjoy the commentary if that's your thing for the Mary Poppins Returns as I live and breathe. So you can pick that up finally. New to Blu-ray, Criterion is releasing Detour. From Poverty Row came a movie that, perhaps more than any other, epitomized the dark fatalism at the heart of film noir. As he hitchhikes his way from New York to L.A., a down-on-his-luck nightclub pianist finds himself with a dead body in his hands and nowhere to run. A waking nightmare that comes from bad to worse when he picks up the most vicious femme fatale in cinema history. So that concludes a brand new restored transfer by the Academy Film Archive and the Film Foundation in collaboration with Cinémathèque Française, which provided funding by George Lucas's Family Foundation. It's a brand new 4K restoration of the film, includes a 2004 documentary featuring interviews with the filmmakers Roger Corman, Joe Dante, Wim Wenders, and actor Ann Savage. New interview with film scholars as well. So if you're a fan of Detour, you can pick this one up. Criterion is also giving us Wanda, which I think was one of their releases for the week a week ago. If you're a member of the Criterion channel early release, unfortunately, you can only watch them on your laptops or tablets. They haven't even set up, I think, allowed you to do Apple TV transfers with it, I think. Includes a new 2K restoration of that film, an hour-long documentary on the making of, featuring some interviews that was done in 1980, and some other older special features that they've cobbled together for this release. The film Far From Heaven with Julianne Moore and Dennis Haysbert is being released as well, where Moore plays Kathy, who's a perfect 1950s housewife living in the perfect 1950s life, who turns out maybe her husband is gay, and she falls for the local gardener played by Haysbert. Cleopatra Jones, the blaxploitation classic, is being released as well. And Ned Kelly, not the original with Mick Jagger, but the remake with Heath Ledger and Orlando Bloom is coming out from Shout Select. Born in East L.A., the Cheech Marin film, as well as Losing It from 1983, which was, I believe, Tom Cruise before he was Tom Cruise.
Okay.
The sex comedy from the early 80s is being released. 4K is getting its release of Lord of War, the Nicolas Cage film. And then The Minion, starring, of course, the action superstar Dolph Lundgren, when a beautiful and ambitious archaeologist unearths a mysterious key beneath the streets of modern-day New York City. The Templar Knights of Christ send a modern-day warrior trained in ancient arts to retrieve it before unspeakable evil is unleashed on the world by the Minion, a demonic servant of the Antichrist. I believe in this film, Dolph plays the beautiful and ambitious archaeologist. And then your straight-to-DVD pick of the week is going to be Garden Party Massacre. A gathering of friends goes awry, Matt, when an uninvited guest appears. Oh, wait, there's more. With a pickaxe. Wait, there's still more. And an attitude. Garden Party Massacre. What should we be streaming this week besides Garden Party Massacre?
So available on Netflix is a good little British crime thriller, Layer Cake. Stars Mr. James Bond himself, Daniel Craig, as a drug dealer who wants to get out of the game, as the kids would say, but he's got to pull off one last job. And it's always that last job that gets you. It's a fun little twisty crime thriller, with a lot of British edge to it. So check it out if you haven't seen it.
I love Layer Cake. It's Matthew Vaughn's, I believe it's directorial debut.
Is it?
Who went on to do the Kingsman films. He produced some stuff previous to that. I think mostly Guy Ritchie's earlier films. So I watched that film and I called it, Matt, walking out of this. I saw this at the Cinema City in Hartford back in the day. And I walked out of that film and I said, that guy has to be James Bond. They have to cast him in that role.
And they listened to you.
They
From
did.
Your lips to God's ears.
Jimmy Hollywood said, Chris, you got it, brother. All right. So let's go ahead then and we'll move on, Matt. And we're going to talk about a film. Did it make my top 10 last year? If it didn't, it was right outside the gate. I was a huge fan of this thing. I'm excited to finally talk about it and get your impressions on it so you can once again tell me how right I am. Here's a clip from Leave No Trace.
Sorry for making you worry about me. If we had a phone, I could have called you.
Always been able to communicate without all that.
think it might be easier on us if we try to adapt.
We're wearing their clothes, we're in their house, we're eating their food, we're doing their work. We have adapted. The only place we can't be seen is in this house.
We can still think our own thoughts. Like you said. What if the kids at school think I'm strange? Because of the way we're living?
So Ben Foster plays Will, and he is taking care of his daughter, played by Thomasin McKenzie. Her name, of course, in the film being Tom. And Matt, they are living in the wilderness, the two of them, off the grid. Will is suffering from PTSD, and he basically is just as far away from civilization as he possibly can be. And all he wants to do is take care of his daughter. Unfortunately, one slight mistake, and they are found. And then there's a period of time where they're trying to adjust to being part of regular civilization. So this is the latest film written and directed by Debra Granik, who launched basically the career of Jennifer Lawrence with Winter's Bone. So if you haven't seen Winter's Bone, that thing is fantastic. And let me tell you, Matt, Leave No Trace is no different. This thing, when I walked out of the theater checking this thing, I was blown away by it. It is a fantastic film, well deserving of its 100% score on Rotten Tomatoes, and horribly robbed of. No, I don't think it had a single Oscar nomination. I don't think it did. And it is, for me, I think, going to launch, just like it launched Jennifer Lawrence's career. Thomasin McKenzie is going to be in a bunch of stuff now. Watch this, because her portrayal in this film as Tom is graceful. It is earnest. How she is able to just subtly, how do I describe it? She's with her father and she's happy to be with him, but she's yearning to have perhaps more normal life. And as she kind of gets introduced more to society, you can see, all of that stuff, and how she's able to emote all of that is devastating, but still wanting to help and be with her and protect her father. And as he wants the best for them, but his idea of that is something entirely different. As I said, this thing floored me, Matt. Tell me you felt the same. What are your thoughts about Leave No Trace?
Well, first, I just want to say that if I wasn't here to tell Chris that he's right, nobody would, because Jen's certainly not going to do it. She's never going to tell you that you're right. So I'm here for you, buddy. But in this particular case, yes, you are absolutely right. It's a fantastic film. Ben Foster, he kind of does his quiet, intense Ben Foster thing that he's so good at. And as you said, Thomasin McKenzie just shows a depth and a vulnerability and just kind of a steeliness to Tom that is just fantastic. I'm really excited to see what else she does in her career. But it's a quiet film, but it's it's got a lot of things that are said like in the sidelines, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a fantastic film.
Yeah, Ben Foster's portrayal of the man struggling to kind of keep his family together while dealing with his PTSD is just. I really thought he should have had an Academy Award nomination for that thing. I mean, he is fantastic in this. And Granik, how is she captures a relationship between the two of them, no matter what the environment is, right? So we have these beautiful, expansive shots in the forest, and then we have these tight, more confined shots when the two of them have been captured or they're trying to adapt to a more, for lack of a better term, civilized life in society. It's some beautiful filmmaking here, and particularly her use of sound design. You even heard it in that clip. So if you see the movie, the two of them are actually in a building at that moment. They're indoors, but you hear the crickets, right, and the sounds of night. And the whole film is like that, where every little bit, every little thing kind of ties in and helps bring the emotional impact of the film to you. It's really just fantastic filmmaking. She did a fantastic job with this thing, and I need to come up with another word outside of fantastic.
Yes, you do.
But yeah, it's a deeply emotionally resonating film for me, and I think everybody should see it. It's a tight 109, as we like to say. Currently available on Amazon Prime for your streaming pleasure for free, and of course you can rent it at all the other locations. But a must-see film from 2018, Matt. I gave Leave No Trace an A.
Yeah, I give it an A as well. It's one that I'm happy I got to catch up with eventually. And if I was doing my list today of my top 20 or my top 10 of 2018, it would definitely be on there.
What's the other one we haven't done yet that's on Amazon?
First Reformed.
First Reformed. Yeah, I actually rewatched that last week because I had family in town and they had heard about it and they wanted to check it out. Yeah. So we watched that. So we'll have to do that soon too because there's a lot to say about that thing. Have you seen it yet or no?
I have not seen it yet, no.
Okay, we're going to have to work that bad bear in. If you've had a chance to see Leave No Trace, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. Matt, my head is pounding right now, but I'm going to plow through with this little headache just for you kids because I love you all. Well, most of you, not you, Jimmy. I'm not a big fan of you. Next up, it's going to be what are the odds? We're going to apply the odds, a particular thing happening or not happening, and then never, as we say, go back to see if we were right. So let's jump all in, though, Matt. And there's talk, Matt, now of a sequel to this film. And we're going to ask you, what are the odds that actually happens?
I put my heart and soul into this song.
No one is disputing that.
And you don't like it because you want your songs on the album.
It's not that, Roger.
And what is it?
I'm in love with my car.
Maybe it's not strong enough? What does that even mean, not strong enough?
I'm late. What did I miss?
Discussing Roger's car song.
Is it strong enough?
That's all I'm asking. If I'm on my own here, then I apologise.
How does your new song go, then? You call me sweet like I'm some kind of cheese.
It's good.
Wow.
Is that, when my hand's on your grease gun, that's very subtle,
It's a metaphor, Brian.
It's just a bit weird, Roger. What exactly are you doing with that car?
Children, please. We could all murder each other, but then who would be left to record this album?
Statistically speaking, most bands don't fail. They break up.
Why the hell would you say something like that?
So that is a clip from Bohemian Rhapsody, one of the Best Picture nominees of 2018.
Right. Winner of the Best Actor in a Leading Role.
So there is talk now of a sequel to Bohemian Rhapsody.
Right.
And I'm curious how they would go about that. Would it be the 86 through 91? Would it be the Magic Tour with Wembley, where they actually sold out the whole thing just themselves, not just, from Live Aid? And then listen, here's the thing. You're not making that film the same film. That's going to be a much more dramatic and darker film, because you're dealing then with the last 5 years of his life. And it's going to be... I just don't think you can whitewash or sanitize that movie. I don't know. Right. Maybe you can. Maybe you make it a version of him just overcoming the odds to deliver those last few vocal performances for those last couple albums, I guess. And then it just fades to black. I don't know. But Matt, what are the odds that we actually see a Bohemian Rhapsody sequel? I'm
going to say 5%. Maybe somewhere along the way, somebody decides to tell that story, as somebody's want to do in a biopic, but I don't think it's going to be a direct sequel.
I'm not as bearish as you are. I'm at 25% that they pull this off.
Really?
I don't want them to. If they want to talk about it, they can talk about it. But I do not want to see this happen, especially not after what we just saw. Now, granted, maybe Bryan Singer needs to keep working in somebody's minds. I don't know. Hopefully, they'll bring in a new director. But it'd be funny if they do like a Atlas Shrugged thing, where they just recast everybody and then go and
right.
do it on the cheap, put it in the theaters for like a weekend.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I think given the success that this thing had, I would not be surprised if they did it. So I'm going to go 25%, unfortunately.
All right.
What do you got?
Well, first, so interestingly enough, I know we usually have 3. That was actually my first question as well. What are the odds we get a Bo Rap sequel? So I will just move on to the next one. So, as we record this, Captain Marvel is out in theaters right now. It's making a buttload of money. And just as a side note, I read this thing about how, of course, there's the idiotic troll kind of anti-review campaign by the incel crowd. And but I do have to laugh in the fact that there's this big, article about how, YouTube like did all this stuff to their algorithm to like, fight the bad reviews and stuff like that. But it's like, okay, they can mess with their algorithm to fight bad reviews on Captain Marvel, but they can't, stop their draconian copyright claims or can't stop pedos and all that kind of stuff. But we've got Captain Marvel taken care of. So good priorities, YouTube. Anyway, so but the real story of this thing is that next month is a big month coming up. At the end of the month, Avengers Endgame comes out, and interesting enough, Black Panther is the top-grossing domestic Marvel film. Now, Infinity War is the top-grossing all worldwide at $2 billion. But what are the odds that Endgame actually domestic gross exceeds Black Panther?
All right. So what do you have the numbers there? I'm kind of curious.
So I know Black Panther made 800 million domestic. I want to say Infinity War made about 730 million, I think, domestic.
Well, according to Box Office Mojo, Black Panther made 700 million.
Oh, okay.
All right. So, and then let's just pop on over again and let's go to Avengers Infinity. We're doing it live, folks, just for you. 678, 815.
Okay.
So it was only not even 21 and change million short domestically. What are the odds it beats that?
Yeah.
Oh, I think I'm going to say like 75%.
Think it tops Black Panther?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's the culmination of the entire run. So I know Captain Marvel is supposed to be the beginning of the next wave, right?
Right.
Technically.
Yeah.
So I think that
actually I think the new Spider-Man movie is the beginning of the next wave.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Because that comes out after Endgame, right?
It does come out after Endgame, yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, I think it's possible. So I'm going. What did I say? 75%.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'll say 75. What do you say?
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's pretty high. I'm gonna say 70%. I'm a little less bullish, but what would be really interesting, I wonder how much more over the 2 billion mark it's gonna make. Like, do you think it makes 3 billion, 2.5 billion?
Well, my question for you is, will it clear $1 billion domestically?
Yeah, it might. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, this is, like you said, the culmination. Everybody's invested in this thing.
But keep in mind, I think it's 3 hours long.
Right.
So that's going to cut into screening time.
Right. But let me just put it this way. So spoiler alert, guys, I went ahead and saw Captain Marvel this weekend.
Oh.
In the AMC that I go to, it's 24 screens and there's 2 hallways. Okay. So, 12 and 12. Down one hallway, every single one of them was Captain Marvel. So I think they can do the same thing for Infinity War quite easily.
Well, yeah, but where do you go? But you have how many screens I got? 24?
Yeah.
You said? All right. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. If you got a 6 or a 9,
yeah,
what are you going to do? You're going to go out the whole way?
No, I can't see that they just only play all in game all the time kind of thing in some small theater. But yeah, I mean, I guess, but I mean, Infinity War was pretty long too. It was over 2 hours, 2.5 hours.
238.
Yeah, so I mean, and that was even though it was 238, it seemed to go really fast. So I don't think anybody's going to be complaining about 3 hours.
Well, that's how it feels has got nothing to do with how many screenings you could squeeze in a day. I guess it's still not official runtime wise. So, but the last few reports have said it's still at 3 hours.
Okay.
So we'll have to see how that shakes out. I think that could cut into it. It probably will have a very high rewatch value in theaters. So I don't know. We'll have to see how that shakes out. That's interesting. But I think it's worth an answer to that question. So what are the odds that it breaks 1 billion domestically when the last one did 678?
Make it almost 320 million more.
I don't know. I you know what? I just don't know if it's possible. How long was the last one out for? It was out for, let's see here. How many weeks? Nothing like dead air. 20 weeks. It was out for 20.
Okay.
That's 5 months. Let me
but
see.
the record is still Avatar, right?
I believe so, but does that is it? I mean, yeah, I guess you got to adjust for inflation, right?
Well, and actually, the Star Wars: The Force Awakens, $936 million.
Force Awakens almost cleared $1 billion.
Yeah.
All right, then. If that almost cleared $1 billion, I think this is going to be bigger. So I guess then I'm going to go up to like 60% then.
Okay. Yeah, I think 60% is right. I mean, so the top four are Star Wars, Avatar, Black Panther, Avengers, Titanic.
Yeah. Interesting. I think the big question will be, will Avatar 2 break $1 billion?
Yeah, no. Not even close.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see. So to piggyback on your Captain Marvel love, which I don't know when I gotta go see it this week. So what are the odds? Oh, all right. So to kind of get to what you're talking about. So for Captain Marvel, there was a big hullabaloo where basically Rotten Tomatoes disconnected or shut down the audience score at one point, or they went and cleaned out all the fake reviews.
Yeah, they basically said they wouldn't allow anybody to do audience scores anymore for a film until it's after it's been released.
So what are the odds, Matt, that they shut it down entirely?
I would say 10%. I can't see that they would shut it down entirely. But I think that they're on the right track. I don't think they should let anybody put in a review until after the release date.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm down at about 5% that they would. I think what it is because I think that social component of people giving it ratings is a big part of it. Though I don't know how many. I'll tell you right now, the audience score for Rotten Tomatoes though is almost meaningless at this point. I think the audience score at what's the site called?
Metacritic?
No, CinemaScore, I think.
CinemaScore, yes.
Which does the actual polling of audiences as they leave the theater.
Right.
Right? I think that one's much more legit than this one at this point because people review bomb it. And what's exactly what's happening even now to Captain Marvel is that it's being review bombed. So I'm on RT right now and it said there are no featured reviews. Oh, I just clicked on it and there's a bunch here. So there's 105 pages and it's just, God, I don't understand why people are the way they are. I feel like Michael Scott talking to Toby. Why are you? So anyway, all right. What do you got? Any more?
Yeah, I got one more. So the more I hear about James Gunn's Suicide Squad, the more excited I'm getting for it. So what are the odds that James Gunn Suicide Squad really rights the ship for that franchise? We got King Shark. We got Dave Bautista coming in as Peacemaker. This thing keeps getting better every time I hear more about it.
I didn't know any of that. Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm going to, for that particular franchise.
Yes.
Wow, that's not a heavy lift. I would say I'll go 83% just to give you an odd number.
Okay, that is a weird number. Yeah, I'm gonna say 80%. But I mean, I wouldn't say that would write the DC ship because there's no DCEU anymore.
True.
Right? So there's
I guess so.
It's everything's kind of off on its own.
I really hope there's some type of cameo in Shazam by somebody, Wonder Woman, or maybe they gave Cable his 10-15 mil to do it that he wanted, but I doubt it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that Suicide Squad 2, or it's not even 2, it's a relaunch, right?
Right.
So
I'm trying to remember who they got to replace. Oh, Idris Elba is replacing Will Smith.
Yeah. I think is an upgrade.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, everything about this, other than the fact that they still got Jared Leto, that's the one strike against it. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Maybe they can boot him and bring in Joaquin, depending on how that film does this year.
Right.
It bothers me about the DCEU stuff too. I think inherent in the failure of that franchise, I think, is the greed. It's we got to catch up. We got to get this Justice League film out. We have to do all of this stuff. It's not just the incompetence of a Goyer working with Snyder's flawed vision. It's just his too much of a commitment to aesthetics instead of telling a cohesive, entertaining story. So, but the greed of them to try and catch up with Marvel they didn't build any groundwork really.
Right.
We get Man of Steel years later. We get a muddled BVS, and then we got a due date to hit. So here's Justice League.
You know what though? I can tell you though, this is a chance though, since they've kind of abandoned the DCEU thing and they can kind of start over. I think this is a real good opportunity for them to kind of carve out their own niche away from Marvel because, I don't know, man. Yeah, we'll talk about it, but yeah, I think there's time to start getting something new out there as far as superhero films go.
And the possibilities for the DCU for that stuff are endless. Could you imagine like a horror film with the Spectre?
Yeah.
Or a Jack Knight Starman movie, a magic film with Dr. Fate. There's so many great characters that whatever. Okay. No need to get me depressed as well as not feeling well. So, Matt, what are the odds Black Panther has opened the door to superhero films getting Best Picture nods? Is it a one-time thing, or is it game on now?
I think it's going to be the exception rather than the rule. I could see if Endgame really does well, I can see it getting kind of like a Return of the King treatment, kind of like, this is your honorary nom, maybe even win for just kind of what you've been able to do kind of thing. But I think it's a genre. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's something that's going to get a lot of respect.
So you think the odds then of it being a game changer, and now comic book movies will be considered regularly for if they're of a certain quality?
Yeah, I would say 30%.
Okay.
Just because, as you know, I mean, I would say, I think it's no secret that both of us thought Black Panther was good, but it wasn't great as far as MCU movies go. And there are better comic book movies out there like The Dark Knight that didn't get any love. So I don't know. I just don't see it happening.
I think it was more of a cultural event that helped push it over the top.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I would still say I think maybe the Academy is a little more open to it now. So I'm going to go actually 53%. That it's air of legitimacy, though. Obviously, I'm not taking much of a stand at 53.
Yeah.
I was going to go 50, but that's just a coward's move.
That is a coward move. It could, or it might, or it might not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking it added a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm going to go with 53.
All right.
I still got, I can pick up the slack for you, Matt. I still have one more. And then I started to introduce a special segment at the end of the special segment.
Ooh.
So that'll be fun. Matt, what are the odds Netflix opens its own theater chain?
Oh, good one. I would say 60% because Disney is going to own everything that's AMC. It's all going to be all Disney all the time and AMC. And then Netflix will open its, and then Amazon will say, hey, we can do that. And they'll open up their own and they'll put Netflix out of business.
Interesting. So you said 60%.
Yeah.
I'm a little more bearish on that. I'm going to go 40% that they'll open up their own theater chain. I think Disney is almost a lock to open up their own chain at this point. Maybe in 10 years, I think you'll see Disney theaters, or they'll buy a pre-existing chain like a Regal or whatever it is that's not AMC.
Right.
They'll buy that and then charge outrageous prices for distributors to put their films in their theaters or something like that. Instead of only taking a cut of the box office, they'll charge some kind of usury fee to get them in there. But yeah, I think it's a matter of time for Disney. Netflix, I'm not so sure. Maybe. All right, Matt. And then finally, here it is. The new segment we included in the odds, over-under.
Oh.
So you got to give me an over-under on Avengers Endgame. All right. So what do you think that RT score is going to be? We'll say, actually, no, I'm going to give it to you. I always forget how this game works. I'm going to give you the Avengers Endgame Rotten Tomato score, and you're going to have to tell me, is it going to be over that amount or under that number?
Okay.
All right. Now that I realize that, I haven't come up with a number yet, so I'm going to do that on the fly because I am a professional.
You are, yes.
Over under Avengers Endgame, 76%.
Over. Definitely going over on that because Infinity War got, I think, in the 80s, so I'm going to go over.
Did
Definitely.
it? Okay. What do you think would be a better over under score then?
90.
Really? You think 90 would be?
Well, and I think, let me look it up. Look it up right now.
I am.
And Infinity War got an 85% score on Rotten Tomatoes.
All right, let's do that then. 85.
I'm still gonna go over. I think this is kind of like like you said, the build up, the kind of the release, the catharsis. I think there's gonna be a bunch of deaths in this. It's gonna make people sad. It's gonna be a cultural event. I think it's gonna be over 85%.
All right. Yeah, I actually think it may be like an 81. So I'd probably take the under at 85.
Okay.
I'd still be in the 80s, but I think it'll be under. All right. And I actually had a follow-up one on the box office, but I think we covered that talking about it earlier. So,
well, I actually want to follow up on that one. So, guys,
okay.
In a month, let's follow up and see who was right on that one.
Okay, fair enough. We're not putting that gift card money down though in the Rotten Tomato score contest.
I know I still owe you gift card money. I keep forgetting about that.
That's all right.
You'll get it. You'll get it eventually.
Yeah, someday.
Someday
my prince will come. Next week, Honor the Biggest Show. Matt, what's it going to be? What are you excited to talk about? Anything interesting coming out?
Captain Marvel, I heard. It's a little film. You know, small studio, scrappy.
We'll be discussing Captain Marvel. Perhaps we'll do First Reform, maybe something else. There's a lot out there. We haven't done Bird Box. We haven't done that Bandersnatch. Is that the name of it? The
Choose Your Own Adventure thing.
There's so much out there we got to catch up with. Yikes. But Captain Marvel, for sure. You know, the first Captain Marvel is so that'll be a fun one. I'm really looking forward to that. We love us some Brie Larson around here. By the way, I know I'll probably say it again next week. If you haven't seen Short Term 12, it is a knockout of a film with a bunch of future stars in it. So you absolutely have to check that film out. And that's it. So, Matt, I think we should tell people where to find us. Go to YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Search for The First Run. Scroll. Eventually you will find us. Go over to Apple Podcasts and give us a quick review. That's the best way for other people to find the show. All right. I think that's good. Am I forgetting anything? I don't think so.
I think you're good. You got it covered.
Oh, man. Oh, I did it. I got to take some Excedrin and lie down. So let's go ahead and take an extended break, and we will see you all soon.
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all.